The focus on immigration crackdown by the Trump administration and how this may and is playing out in sanctuary cities, including Minneapolis. So joining me now is Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey to talk about this and maybe some other things that are on the minds of the community. We appreciate your time today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. So, yesterday, setting the stage here, President Trump signed some new executive orders, and this is on the heels of a federal judge blocking the president's attempt to withhold billions in federal funds from sanctuary cities and states. So, does any of what the president is doing in the past, yesterday, in the future, does that concern you at all?
Well, it's always concerning because I don't think anybody knows at this point what Donald Trump is going to do next, but it's neither moral nor is it lawful. It would be in violation of state law in that there are specifically enumerated powers that police have under state law, and this is now one of them. It would be in violation of our separation ordinance at the city, but even if that wasn't the case, I'm mayor, we have a chief of police, and we get to decide where to prioritize our limited law enforcement resources. We want police focused on catching murderers, stopping homicides, preventing carjackings, and quite simply, trying to search for undocumented immigrants is just not a threat to safety like these other issues.
And Mayor, when it comes to those types of sort of more violent crimes, what if those crimes are being committed by an undocumented immigrant? Then, can you clarify the lines there?
Then they should get arrested just like anybody else. If you murder somebody, if you are involved in a shooting, if you jack a car or are involved in fraud, you should get arrested and you should get prosecuted, period. That is the case for anybody in this city, any resident of Minneapolis, including undocumented immigrants. Now, that is a big difference from saying we're going to be spending our limited law enforcement resources to track down somebody that is otherwise not doing anything wrong. I mean, you tell me, which is more dangerous? The person that has been involved in multiple shootings, has killed people, has jacked cars, or the father of two who drops his kids off at daycare, heads into a very long day of work, who happens to be from Ecuador? Again, we want to be focusing on where the safety needs of Minneapolis are most serious. And again, we want to focus our limited law enforcement efforts on those areas. And by the way, the police are doing a great job because crime has gone down dramatically.
Can you help us understand, this is sort of more of a definition question, but what does a sanctuary city mean to you? And then what doesn't it mean? Because, there's, providing benefits, maybe favorable criminal sentencing to undocumented immigrants, some might say.
The definition of a sanctuary city is somewhat amorphous, and that's part of the problem because it's whatever Donald Trump deems it to be in the moment. I'll tell you what we have in Minneapolis. We have a separation ordinance, and that says that our police, our public officials, are not to ask the question as to whether an individual is documented or not. And because they haven't asked the question, we haven't gathered any information. And because we haven't gathered any information, when Donald Trump or anybody else says, give us all your information about undocumented immigrants, the answer is quite simple. We don't have any. And the second thing that it does is it says that our police are not in charge of enforcing federal law around immigration status. Our police have very important responsibilities around preventing violent crime and stopping homicides from taking place and a host of other issues. I want them focused on that first because, again, we want safety to be the top priority in this city.
A lot of people read in the headlines in the last couple of weeks or last week or so, this judge in Wisconsin who was arrested and then charged with obstructing an immigration operation at a courthouse. Would you support that kind of action here?
Well, I don't know all the details of exactly what happened there, but I'll tell you it is very concerning when you have a federal administration going in to arrest someone from the judicial branch. We've got a separation of powers, and that separation is there for a very important reason. Legislatures pass laws, the executive branch carries those laws out, the judicial branch interprets those laws. And when someone who is in charge of interpreting law is arrested by a federal administration, this is no small deal. We need to be very keenly aware of what's happening around us right now, because this is not a partisan issue. This kind of thing can be a threat to the whole republic. And so, yeah, of course, it's very concerning. And in Minneapolis, again, we care about our neighbors. These are people that have lived here in many cases for decades. These are residents. They work here. They got kids here, and here they're not illegal aliens. They are our neighbors, and we care about them. Love them.
I'm curious if there's any room for compromise with the Trump administration on this issue in particular. We had Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison on when he leveraged a lawsuit. The state of Minnesota sued the federal government having to do with sort of trans athletes, right? I'd ask you the same question. If you were, sitting in a room with the president, what would you say to him? And is there room to negotiate here?
I don't know that there is room to negotiate on our values, and we're going to have the courage of our conviction. Look, if he's saying we need to arrest murderers, I'm on board. If he is saying we need to make sure that people responsible for violent carjackings are held accountable, whether they are undocumented or not, yeah, count us in. But if he's talking about separating families, breaking them apart, and violating some of the most sacred morals that we have, which is you look out for your neighbor, well, yeah, we got a problem with
that. Have you been in touch with any other mayors from any other sanctuary cities? Is there any sort of a plan moving forward, or are you sort of just focusing on how Minneapolis might react?
Yeah, we're working with a number of different cities, states, counties, attorney general's offices around the country to make sure that we're not just doing the right thing by Minneapolis. We've got a comprehensive plan and strategy nationwide. And so we saw some of the fruits of that just recently, where last week we got a favorable order from a court that said that the federal government can't withhold funds if they don't get the answer that they want from cities regarding how we're working on immigration.
The last thing I'll kind of ask you about this before we maybe take a break and come back with some other questions is, I think it's important to try to clarify sort of what's real and then what's threatened. So some of this is by executive order, which in most cases is not sort of the end all be all. What specifically could be cut in Minneapolis if the city doesn't comply, and if it's deemed, in the courts that you need to comply? What do we know right now?
Not a lot. We got a letter on my desk maybe 8 weeks ago now, and it said all the funding that you get from the federal government is cut. To give you an idea, that's about $70 million at least. It goes to emergency management. It goes to our bomb squad. Believe it or not, you kind of need a bomb squad. It goes to affordable housing and shelter and a host of other really important services that people expect us to conduct. So first off, withholding those funds that, by the way, have already been allocated by Congress, have already been passed in a budget. If Donald Trump wants to pass a new budget, he can do that. But you got to pass a new budget, not like grab the check that's already been sent in the mail. These are monies that cities around the country have been counting on. And so you just can't do it the way he's been doing it. And so is there a concern? Of course there's a concern. But we're doing everything possible to have both a strategic plan and action steps so that we in Minneapolis are more protected, and cities around the country are the same.
Okay. Mayor, are you doing okay? I'm worried about your arm. Is your arm okay to hold up that phone, or?
My arm is exhausted. You should credit here. Maybe, and maybe give me an easier question.
Okay. We do have some viewer questions that I wanted to get to, but would it be helpful for you to just take a quick break and reset a little bit?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Keep going.
Okay.
I'll switch arms down again. Keep going.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so go ahead. Here. Okay, sounds good. You guys are doing great. I know there's some technical issue here. We really appreciate it. But if it makes you feel better, this is the vibe of our show, is just kind of going with the flow and zooming. Like, you could be in your car right now and it would be totally fine. So we're very informal. Okay, let me get to some of the viewer questions that we have here. One second here. One, let's see. I'm kind of having to go through these in real time, Mayor, I'm going to be honest. And so they're kind of helping me out a little bit in the newsroom, but let me try to get get some of these. And Amber, if you wanted to text me some of those, that would be great. Some of the ones that I got on Twitter, there was an article, I believe, I'm not sure how long ago this was, from the Star Tribune about violence prevention, and the headline here is Violence Prevention Faltering in Minneapolis. Can you talk a little bit about this issue in general, and then more specifically what's kind of being done to move through it?
Yeah, so it's a broad question. I think it's probably focused on compliance,
yeah,
which has been something we've been working on for quite some time here. Look, this violence prevention is an innovative program that we have tried, specifically that around violence interrupters. It's a program where certain aspects have worked and certain aspects have not worked. And our administration has been pretty clear, very clear. Don't continue to fund this at huge levels before we get this right. Compliance is really important. Making sure that you have proper data that we're able to track is critical. And that's the work that's happening right now. So to the extent that money doesn't go out the door as quickly, there's a good reason for it. We need to make sure that things are accountable and that compliance checks are happening.
Okay, another viewer says they feel like you are prioritizing those who are here illegally over legal citizens in Minneapolis. What's your response to that?
We're prioritizing people's safety, period. And as mayor, I have a responsibility for it. So if there's a question, what should our police officers focus on? The first answer is keeping people safe from homicides, keeping people safe from shootings, keeping people safe from carjackings and all other sorts of violent offenses out there. Again, that is far more dangerous than the father of three who is just living and dropping his kid at daycare and going to work all day, who happens to be from a different country.
Along the lines of the sanctuary city, so we're getting several questions about that. This person wants to know, why is Minneapolis a sanctuary city? You've kind of talked about that a little bit. Considering rising budget and property taxes, at what point can we not afford free health care for immigrants? Do you feel that it is fair to offer benefits to non-citizens that are not available to struggling residents?
Well, so first off, the term, again, sanctuary city, is amorphous. I have sort of described what our rules are in Minneapolis. As it applies, let's remember that, immigrants do pay taxes. They are involved in our society. Do we need to make sure that we've got the right regulations in place? Of course we do. Do we need to make sure people are safe? Yes, of course we do. And that's what we're trying to do here as a city.
Go ahead. Sorry, let me ask one more here that is sort of related to that, Mayor. So this person says, I moved to Minneapolis in 2019. My property taxes that year were about $5,700. My proposed property taxes next year are just over $9,000, which is 60% higher than 6 years ago when I first moved in. There's a Hennepin County commissioner who has pointed the finger at Minneapolis. How do you respond?
I'm not sure what the commissioner exactly said, but look, we're experiencing a dynamic that virtually every city in the country is seeing, which is a devaluation of some of these commercial office buildings. And when the property value drops, the taxes you're able to collect from it drop along with it. And then people in the city end up getting stuck with the burden. It's a problem. And what that means is we've got to be very cognizant of how we use our tax dollars. We can't just be throwing money out the door and doling money out to different nonprofits, as benevolent as they may be. We've got to do the right thing by the taxpayer. And yeah, at times that means cutting back. And so that's part of the responsibility for us. And it also means we've got to find as many tax revenue generating opportunities where we can make sure that, again, residents of our city are not getting stuck with the brunt.
Okay, and we're running up against kind of a hard out for you, so I want to be respectful of your time. We appreciate you coming on and being willing to sort of answer questions live with us, and maybe we can do it again and cast a wider net and get a wide range of questions from folks.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Direct line to the mayor. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time today, Mayor
I'll
Frey.
lift some weights next time, so maybe I'm better able to hold this phone.
We'll get you a tripod next time, I think is what we need to do.
All right.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right.